And we start by querying up South Florida and Florida. WMBA Holiday Spectacular has spectacular controversy over Martina Navratilova. Wilton Manors is an extremely open and welcoming community, but extreme anti-trans activist Martina Navratilova is not welcome here. At least that's what some connected to Monday's Holiday Spectacular are saying. The annual event is a fun tradition that generally doesn't warrant much hard news coverage. But this year, organizers find themselves forced to take a stand on trans rights. Expected to perform, or at least she was, at Monday's upcoming event at Richardson Park on the Drive, is Real Housewife of Miami, Julia Lemigova, the wife of tennis icon Navratilova. When word got out that she would be getting possibly 4 free tickets to the event, many in the community reacted. The event is put on by Wilton Manors Business Association, or WMBA. I've talked with multiple people connected to this event, and they are clear in their response. They told us, quote, "The Wilton Manors Business Association is dedicated to fostering an inclusive LGBTQ+ community and unwaveringly supports our trans members. We firmly believe every individual deserves to be treated with dignity, respect, inclusion, and equality regardless of their gender identity. As such, we will only work with performers that share in our values and beliefs. WMBA's board has directed our entertainment partner to remove Julia Lemigova from participating in the upcoming Holiday Spectacular. WMBA remains committed to embracing and uplifting every member of our community regardless of sexual orientation or gender ideology, whether it's gay, straight, bi, trans, queer, or non-binary. In Wilton Manors, there is no room for hate and oppression. We strive for an environment of acceptance and inclusivity." End quote. Now, this is not new. Martina has a long history of anti-trans rhetoric. She has expressed hateful and hurtful comments about the community, and the idea of standing on the stage and seeing her front and center is a difficult idea for many involved. Queer News Tonight host FayWhat is hosting next week's Holiday Spectacular, and she provided this statement saying, quote, "As a proud out lesbian, I will always stand in solidarity with my trans sisters. Martina's view that trans women aren't lesbians is incorrect. Her assertion that trans girls cannot participate in girls' sports teams is equally misguided. These statements defy the very essence of my beliefs. Trans women are unequivocally women, period." End quote. Martina's rhetoric continued this week when she picked a fight on Queer News Tonight's story on Twitter X, specifically me. The story reports her factual statement that trans women, her story reported as factual that trans women could not be lesbians. A few weeks ago, she called trans women a bad parody of a woman. Here's the part of the story with comments. Martina Navratilova, you're down here in Miami allegedly, and probably, hopefully watching this. And I'm just going to tell you, you are a bad parody of a human being. The fact that you were a trailblazer and a hero in 1981. Great. Thank you for coming out. Thank you for being what you were. But the fact is, you're not that anymore. You're not an ally. The T of LGBTQ may not have even been thought of back in 1981. And that's not okay, but it was the times. But we're not 1981 anymore. The LGBTQ+ community is one community. And we have to be there to support each other. No one can make you, but we can make sure that you are not speaking for us. Because going forward, we all need to be together. And if you're not with us, according to your social feeds, you are literally against us. And I stand by every word I said. She doubled down on hate this week when she posted an image of that story and seems to believe that any cis man who criticizes her is a misogynist. Well, she can say what she wants. That doesn't make it true. I have extended an invitation to her to come on the show for a discussion. So far, no word back. But now, our community is doing the right thing. We will stand against hate, be it from Proud Boys, Moms for Liberty, or bigots within our own community. This story really blew up. a lot more. I was not expecting to be in a Twitter feud with Martina Navratilova when I started my week. I was not.
But how fabulous!
But how fabulous that it is. Not my first, but certainly my best thus far. But I really need to applaud WMBA because, and first I'm going to correct a couple of things. In the last 24 hours, this story has really sort of ballooned, and there have been statements that weren't quite true or got taken out of proportion. We've been told that Martina was never given 4 tickets to the event to watch her wife perform. If they were asked for, which we haven't confirmed, but if they were asked for, they were never issued. So let's just put that up right front and center. WMBA has not given her, or has never, they didn't even revoke them because they were never issued tickets to the event. Now, that said, Lemigova of Real Housewives and Martina's wife has shared her sentiments, shared Martina's sentiments as well. So personally, I'm glad to see that it's coming together because WMBA didn't have to do this. They could have just said, okay, we'll go forward and we're just going to close our eyes to this, but they didn't. The board was up in arms. Faye, as we just read, you go girl, she was ready to take a stand on this. It's important. We can't leave behind the T. We can't leave behind the Q. We can't leave behind the L or the G because our enemies are patient. Our enemies are heinously patient. And once they knock off one letter, they'll come after the next. They don't care if it takes decades to knock off each one. They are coming for us. We must stand together against hate, outside and inside.
So I like that you offered the invitation for Martina to come and at least have a forum where she can explain. I'm not going to say defend. I'm not going to say anything other than explain. Like if you're being misrepresented, you can explain yourself.
Yeah. I'm just thinking of the history of LGBTQ rights, and I'm thinking about Marsha P. Henderson, and I'm thinking about all the trans activists that really were the ones that began all of this for us, the ones that really never would back down and had no problem being out in front and risking it all and sometimes losing it all. And I remember being of a certain age, you know, there was a lot of discussions back in the 80s. You were talking about 1981 and how the T was consistently left out. Once the movement got going in a certain direction, people started being left out. And to think that in 2023, we're having this discussion with someone so high profile in our community who has made so many inroads and made even being out so possible for so many people. To think that we're still having this conversation is a little bit sad, but you know what? If we have to have the conversation, you made the invitation. We need to talk about it. And we need to make sure that everybody understands, you know, once and for all. So that we can all move forward together.
It's tough for me because you watch them on television, right? They're given this platform, you know, and you don't often see 2 women, you know, married, in love, living under one roof. And here it is on The Real Housewives of Miami, you know, and then you find out that there's a dark side to it. It's really disappointing when you're watching as a viewer. I came in here today not knowing any of this with Martina, you know, so for me, it's also kind of like, how did we get here with this event? How did Julia even get involved in being invited to perform whatsoever at this event if she's got this long history of anti-trans and trans hate? I just think it's really sad when women at home are watching these women on their screens thinking, oh my God, I haven't seen a lesbian power couple like this. And then you go to their Twitter and you find out their real thoughts about the trans community. It's heartbreaking.
I was a tennis player, you know? And back in those days, in the 70s and 80s. And so this has been a huge symbol. And I'm really, really sad right now to think that she's unable to find room in her heart to accept other people when she's been out talking about the need for her to be accepted for who she is, that she's finding it hard to be able to extend that to other human beings.
But I would like to thank Martina, actually. I just want to express my gratitude for acknowledging me as one of the 2 nodding men.
Yes, you were. Yes.
And in Czech, I would like to say, děkuji. It means thank you.
A couple of things before we move on. Yes, Greg, in the comment section, there was one, this was great. They were like, how is it that the person in the center is speaking, but, or they basically said Greg and I were speaking, like how is the person on the right speaking without the other person? And I'm like,
They were getting you confused?
yeah, girl, we've been making that joke for years. If you're going to do a little bashing and a little hate, at least make it original, people. Come on. Greg and I have been doppelganging each other. Ooh, doppelgang banging? I don't know. Doppelganging each other for years.
Tell my husband.
But the thing that makes it,
white guys
I told him the other
alike.
I mean, it's a stereotype for a reason sometimes, Paul. But but before we move on, I just want to say, as part of this story, I've had to like comb through her Twitter feed, and it's no, honestly, it's not. I mean, when she's not talking about trans, it's shocking how much she really aligns with much of the community. She's anti-Trump. She's pro a lot of social things, but it really does seem like it's just this one thing, and we have to go. Are we going to make a litmus test when she's with us on 95% of what we agree on? I'm afraid I'm going to have to say yes, because you can't accept me and not my brother. You know, that's just it. You can't. It's for me. It's a deal breaker. I can't speak for the whole community. I wouldn't presume to speak for the whole community, but some things you just have to go. Yeah, that last thing is important.
And I think when we talk about things like that, the thing is, WMBA is having an event. And it's a holiday event, and it's an organization. And so then it gets away from the personal feelings. A person can feel the way they want to feel.
Yeah.
They have a right to feel that way. But then when you're invited to an event, when it's put on by, an organization that is it's part of the community. It's Wilton Manors. It's not even like a private company.
Yeah.
It's like, so other taxpayers are paying into this.
Well, WMBA's not part of Wilton Manors. It's a private.
Oh, is
it is a private individual. Yeah. Obviously, the city supports it in however they can, but it's primarily paid for by WMBA.
But that's when it gets tricky. When other places, I'm sure they had to get permits, they had to get different things. When you start getting these other entities involved, your personal opinions all of a sudden have to be called to the table. And make sure that you're not, offending people.
Right. And do the research before you're going to come someplace. Figure out how they stand, where they stand. Yeah.
Absolutely. And obviously, I will be at Monday's event. At this point, there's probably not going to be any news, which I think is exactly what the organizers want. That's what they want. And that's what it should be. It should be a holiday spectacular. But obviously, I'm just going to go no matter what. I'm kind of bummed I won't get FaceTime with Martina now. But I will be there. I encourage the entire city to come out, not just to support our trans brothers and sisters, which is always important, but just to enjoy our community.
Maybe
come out and have
show
fun.
Up with their wife who won't perform.
Yeah.
And maybe they'll show up.
It is entirely possible. And if they show up,
sign of, okay.
Highly doubt it.
There is
Highly
nothing.
doubt it.
I have, like I said, I've been talking with organizers a lot over the last 24 hours. If Martina wants to show up and buy a ticket, whether it's general admission or a VIP for $99, if she wants to show up, they're not sure if they would or could refuse her entry. They don't know. It's something that why start to cross that bridge if you don't have to? But so right now, Martina could show up. We'll see. But she sure as hell is not going to get $400 worth of free tickets to sit up front and essentially sit there as an enemy of our community. So we will definitely be watching.
But if she wants to show up and apologize, she can do that.
I can't speak for WMBA, but I'll be there, and I'll certainly be happy to talk with her.
I'm just throwing it out there, Martina.
Yeah. Come on, girl.
And we love to manifest an apology. I will also
tennis player to tennis player, Martina.
That's fine. I will be there with you. Let's all sit together.
The whole thing's a racket.
Oh.
Eric.
All right.